Okay, so Gradius. Yeah, obviously we had a few little lag issues from connection, but I'm not gonna be even referencing that because that could happen to anyone that like has a connection. If we're just talking about the gameplay itself, um, you know, I think this is still really fun. This game, especially once you kind of figure out what you're going on here with. Basically, if you're playing it normally, it's a very difficult game for sure because there's a lot at you and you really have to focus to like play it through, obviously. But of course, as AJ provided us the Konami code, which of course has been around since the NES era, you can just make yourself into basically a makeshift easy mode with the game where you just have so much at you. But it can be to your detriment as well because the first time you feel like when you start off having none of those abilities and then getting all those abilities, you feel so strong that you feel like nothing can destroy you, and then that's where your downfall comes, because then you're just like they say pride comes before the fall, and that's very much true if you use the Konami code. You get that power, but you got to make sure you still know what you're doing. You can't just coast on it. You got to go forward. And when we did that special version where it's stage 5 and having all the abilities, I can't even imagine like actually completing that with no power-ups because I had to almost break my wrist just to defeat that first worm enemy, and then the other ones neither of us could beat it. Even with the power-ups, neither of us could beat it. Like, oh. So the ceiling for this game is quite high, but if you're just looking for a good fun time, I think it's a lot of fun. I was still really having a good time. What are your thoughts about it while I change the stream title? Toby?
Hello?
Oh, do you hear me?
Am I back? Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. I was asking
Yeah.
what were you thinking about it?
Yeah, it was good, old classic shooter style, definitely. I don't know if it's one that I'd go back to be honest, to play
Sure.
again. Not because it seems bad, it just seems, yeah, increasingly difficult in like an unforgiving way, especially for this today's era, I guess.
Sure. Sure.
Um, but yeah, that was so hard. That was really difficult. But definitely like just a normal, your classic shooter. It's not doesn't feel like a bad game.
Right.
I wish it was a bit faster, and that's about it really. Yeah, but that's the sign of the time, so I
Of
can't
course. Yeah. No
can't
doubt.
whinge too much.
Yeah, and that's really the sum of this game. I think is pretty much our thoughts that it's still a fun game to play. Like if our grading of whether or not a game still holds up is based purely whether or not the game is fun to still play, this game definitely holds up in that respect because we'll probably we're probably just not good enough or patient enough to try to like actually finish a game like this because of how difficult
Yeah,
it can
yeah,
get. But this is honestly a lot of fun to just like pop in for a few minutes and try to see how well you can do before you die. So if your goal is to not complete the game and just just like waste a few minutes with a friend or even by yourself, I think there's fun to do that, especially since there's 3 versions of Gradius here where you can go into different states. If you want a really hard time, go right to special version 2 because then you're just like fighting a much harder version of the game essentially. Special will give you essentially a power fantasy, but not really because you're in a hard level. So there. And then you can just do the Konami code. I guess technically you could do the Konami code in any one of these versions because it's the same game, right? And you just need to go to the pause menu. So maybe that. So yeah, I guess that to say, in any one of these versions, you can hit the Konami code and essentially make yourself an easier version of what you're already playing, basically. Yeah, if we're talking like so, yeah, if you're talking about just like having fun, then yeah, I think this game holds up. As far as like finishing it, that's gonna be up to you. If you have the patience for it, then go for it. But I don't know how many people are gonna try to like. It gets tough. It gets really tough, and so many other shooting games today, kind of like modern, like a lot of modern shooting games of this genre. You still have to mash the button for sure, but you can also like do hold options so you don't like break your wrist just trying to beat the game. There's a certain amount of people who I know. There's some people who adore shmups. That is their favorite genre. And for those kind of people who already are into this genre, this game is the original classic, and it still holds up today if you're really into that kind of game. But otherwise, it's just fun for a little bit of friends. What are you thinking? Last thoughts before we move on.
yeah, definitely. I would agree. It's good fun. Definitely. I feel like I say this when we played up past games as well. But it feels a lot more fun with another person, just so you can
Yes.
like back and forth off each other, and you can kind of make it a little bit competitive in that sense, I guess, because you can see how far each other can get.
Mm-hmm.
Which apparently, if you're like either one of us, will not be very far. But I'm sure with a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
practice, like you said, if you put time and effort into it, then you can go far.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I was 100% serious with what I said earlier. I would love to see someone who's just like really good at this game and just like be ooh and ah over everything they do.
Yeah,
So maybe I'll do a bit of that later on today. But yeah, that's our thoughts on Gradius. Fun game. You gotta have a lot of patience if you want to finish it, but you'll have a little fun while you're playing it at least. But anyway, we're gonna be moving on